Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears, ladies and gentlemen. You are tuned to the MC Lars podcast. It is Monday, November 18th. This is episode 64 with Mikal kHill. I wanted to say I'm playing some shows coming up in December. December 7th, I'm playing Fort Myers, Florida at the Fort Myers Regional Library. They're doing like a fandom fest, and it's with Mega Ran, so check it out. We'll probably do some Dewey Decibel stuff. December 14th, I just announced I'm playing a show with Spose in Portland, Maine. It's the P Dank Christmas. They do it every year, and that's his label, Preposterously Dank Records. So I'll be up there December 14th, and then New Year's Eve, I'll be in California playing First Night Monterey, which was a festival where I got my start. When I was 16, my first band, Horus, played in 1998. That was my first ever professional paid gig, and I've played that festival a lot. I haven't played it in the past few years, but I'll be back with some of my original bandmates. So check that out. It'll be a cool way to finish up the year. It's been a great year. Player Omega was awesome. That was a very fun gaming festival. We played the Warped Tour Gaming Festival out in California. Got to go to Russia. Toured with some of my favorite people. Toured with some new friends, Oakley Dokley. It's been a good year. And speaking of nostalgia, today I get to talk to Mikal kHill. And Mikal kHill just put out an EP called Terminal, produced by DJ Pain One, a mutual friend of ours. And it's an album about the changes in his life, and it's kind of about his recovery from testicular cancer. So some of you might know that he had a testicle removed. It's not funny, but it happened a few years ago, and he's doing well. And so we talk about that on this podcast. We talk about his love for Insane Clown Posse. We talk about Earthbound. We talk about Firefly. We talk about how Thought Criminals, his band, was nerdcore, but not. But we also talk about our love for indie underground hip hop. And it was really cool because Mikal is a knowledgeable guy. And we're going to hear one of his songs called The Word Was Good from Terminal. So check that out. It's a great conversation with a great guy, Mikal kHill. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Mikal kHill, the legend of the Thought Criminals of many projects, a man who's been doing this forever, and a man who reps North Carolina pretty hard. What's up, man?
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I've enjoyed listening to you chatting with my peers. So,
can I ask, what are some of your favorite interviews that stood out?
The Lewis one was like the big one. The Lewis one, Lou is somebody I have been pretty tight with for a while. So I used to go just like stay at his house with him and his wife in New York. So listening to the podcast with you was like, it just felt like hanging out with him in his house. And we haven't hung out in a really long time, actually. So it was kind of nice. That was one that particularly like immediately jumps out. I like when people talk about stuff and it's not all focused on like your process and stuff like that. I like tour stories and stuff, and Lou always has a bunch of interesting things to say.
Yeah, he really opened up. And I think that one was almost 2 hours long. Like, that was a in-depth one.
Yeah. I don't even normally I don't listen to a lot of podcasts because I don't have long drives and stuff. I live like literally 2 minutes from my office and stuff. So like, I listen to podcasts mostly whenever I'm on my way to shows or on planes and stuff like that. So I think I listened to that whole one in one go, which is really unusual for me.
That's an honor. You know what? My mom is a listener, and her note for me is always like, the 45-minute ones I really find I have more time for. When you're talking for 2 hours, I'm like, all right, well, so for this, because my mom's listening, we'll not talk for 2 hours today, but maybe we will, just in case we do.
Yeah, that's fine if it does. I tend to babble a lot, so it's fine.
I first discovered you through Adam WarRock, who told me about Thought Criminals, and that was like 2011.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that project and and talk to me about how you and Adam or Eugene first linked up. I think that's a cool way to start our conversation.
Yeah, and that's kind of an interesting story with me and Eugene too. So Thought Criminals originally started actually really early, maybe like 2003. as a rap project that was just me and this producer. And it was just a name I'd come up with. And it kind of segued into being the name I attached to a live band I had that had like a rotating cast of people in it. And we used to do we were the house band for a poetry night in Charlotte for a really long time that had a lot of the poetry team from there would come and do poetry and stuff like that. So I sort of accumulated members that way, and I sort of had this idea that it was going to be like what Wu-Tang Clan did, but with live instruments, which is a ridiculous idea in retrospect. But so I produced everything. I did all the beats and stuff, but I would bring in like one member of the band at a time to like play an instrument on each beat and stuff like that. And eventually I recruited this rapper Sulfur from Charlotte, who's now one of my best friends, but I had originally seen him beatbox on stage at a Sage Francis show. And, I had like a Google alert, and somehow somebody who lived in Japan had told him about my music, and we actually lived like a mile apart from each other. And like the Google alert went off, and I had a MySpace post somebody had made about liking my music, and it was Sulfur. And I reached out to him and was like, "Hey, I see you're actually in Charlotte. You want to get together and jam?" And that's sort of how the Thought Criminals became like what it is now. The Thought Criminals now is effectively just me and Sulfur, the other rapper in Thought Criminals. And we have a live band we use that's the band that appears on a lot of my solo records. But Thought Criminals has basically become a duo project, but started as this weird live band thing.
And it's you and Sulfur then, the two main guys.
Yeah.
Only guys.
Yeah, at this point, yeah, we're really the only two. We've been working off and on like a new project with that duo setup for a while, but we haven't finished it. We keep like changing our mind about the concepts. So we had like this big like Proto-Men type concept thing we were working on that was all like what they call the Outrun music type stuff with rapping on it, but I don't know what we're gonna do next.
Wait, explain Outrun. Is that like a Is that a Mega Man reference?
Outrun is actually it's a game by Sega that is a racing game from the 80s, and the music in it became this whole offshoot that's kind of like a spinoff of chiptune, I guess. But it's like this whole genre of music that usually is kind of like proggy sort of stuff with a lot of synths and guitars, but it's like super 80s sounding. It all sounds like it belongs in like an 80s horror movie or something. Like
I'm looking at it on Google. It looks kind of like a predecessor to F-Zero a little bit with the gameplay.
Yeah, you could say, yeah, definitely. It was weird because it was a game where it was an arcade game, and you would go from coast to coast racing from one side of the country to the other. But there were branching paths, so you would like choose which direction you were going to go as you traveled across the countryside, and the music would change.
What's classic to us is now timeless.
Oh yeah, I was super into indie and avant-garde rap, like soul and all the Def Jux stuff, Company Flow before Def Jux.
Shout out to Soul. What a great guy.
Yeah, I love Soul. He was actually supposed to be on Human Disaster and my like last real solo album, but we never could make the schedule line up. But I was really into like even back into the 90s, like Word Sound, which was like Prince Paul's indie label in New York that had like that was like Scotty Hard. And
you remember Mr. Dead, Metabolics?
Oh yeah, Mr. Dead. I actually have an interesting story about Mr. Dead. I will not tell on the podcast, but I will tell you later if you are interested in hearing.
His song Chemically Imbalanced, with Paul.
It's an Automator beat too. I talked to him a lot back in like the MySpace days, back and forth, but he definitely probably does not remember who I am at all. But I remember him. He did B-movie, horror movie stuff for a living. He also did like Prince Paul's videos and stuff. I think the way Prince Paul met him, if I'm not mistaken, was he was doing makeup on a De La Soul video shoot in like the early 90s.
Like that's why one of the things I was looking forward to so much about this interview, I was walking around this morning, getting my coffee, and I was like, we've been embraced by the nerdcore genre, but we're both kind of like, that's not where we cut our teeth.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's like kind of important with like nerdcore in general. I think that was true of like the avant-garde rap scene at one time. not to like put him out there, but I remember Soul actually saying to me once, he was saying that people who were only influenced by their subgenre of like avant-garde rap were terrible. Like, it's like all the people that only listen to us are terrible. Like you can tell which people who are influenced by us, but also liked other rap first, and it makes a huge difference. And it's super true.
Were you a Grand Buffet fan? Were you ever up on them?
No, I love Grand Buffet. I have all of their EPs in a box right to the left, actually.
For a minute, they were on the Nerdcore Wikipedia page as examples, but I don't think they were the kind of guys who grew up on like the old school rap, and for a minute almost got signed to Anticon, and like they were the dudes who really, really inspired me. Like I remember I saw them open for Wesley Willis. And then when I was studying in England, I went to see them with Soul, which is why I bring this up, because we're talking about Soul. And they were just so freaking nice and so cool.
Yeah.
And they fit into every certain, like I saw them with Sage, with Soul, with Wesley Willis, like all my favorite acts. And
everybody toured with them for a while. There was a point where I had seen them more than any other band live. And this was like by like 2006 when I had seen tons of bands, a million times. But they toured with everybody in indie rap for so long that it was like you couldn't avoid knowing who they were.
And their live show was phenomenal. And I think they never made a record that reflected how great they were live. I mean, they never had that. And if they had, and YouTube had existed back then, they would have been so much bigger, I think.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah. And I think they got screwed by their label, and that's why they kind of like went their separate ways, because they seem like they're still cool with each other and stuff.
Yeah.
I know, like, Lord Grunge actually has a group with my friend Height, who's Dan Keach.
Oh, you know Height?
Yeah, Height's awesome.
I was listening to him. I was listening to the Winterize the Game yesterday.
Yeah.
One of his old records. How do you know him?
Doing shows, man. Like, I was one of the main people booking rap acts for a while in Charlotte. There's probably people who would be mad to hear me say that, but I was one of the main people booking rap shows in Charlotte for a while, and somebody was just like, hey, you should do a show with my friend Height because he's coming through, and like I was already looking to book something else, so like we just did a show together, and it was one of the Height with Friends shows, so he had kind of like a weird band with him. That wasn't a conventional band. It was like somebody playing a snare drum and somebody playing bass and like, a weird configuration of people. But he's just the nicest dude, and his live show is so good.
And have you ever been on his podcast?
Yes, I was on his podcast once. It was one of my favorite podcast interviews I've done, actually.
I need to listen to that. Because he's been podcasting since like 2006.
Yeah, it was
intermittently.
I think my appearance was about 3.5 years ago. It was right after I moved up here to the mountains from the Charlotte area.
It's interesting, man. He's one of those rappers I've known about forever that I've been checking out his stuff. I've been a fan of, but I've never met or never had any interaction with him. And it's interesting how in this small scene, we all kind of run in similar circles. And sometimes you never meet someone until you've been listening for a while. Like Chesky, I recently connected with Chesky, and I've been a fan of his for a while. And I know you've done a lot of stuff with him, right?
Chesky is a friend of mine and a super great person. Chesky is a person he's an influence on my music for sure at this point. Like, there's no way I could not say that. He's definitely an influence on my music, but he's also like an influence on how like I carry myself and the way I interact with people. Because he's such a outgoing and kind person. Sometimes, like whenever I get mad about something or I feel, I don't know, some type of way at a show dealing with the staff or something, I'll think about like, what would Chesky do in this situation? And it frequently is not what Mikal kHill would automatically do. So
it's interesting because I know you as a friend and you're a very sweet, optimistic, good guy, but you have a darker persona with your music. Mm-hmm. And it's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Kill,
This is actually something me and Tribal were talking about last night, because we were kind of like, to touch back on what we were talking about before, like I have a rap crew with a group of other rappers that are considered nerdcore, and it's myself, Tribe One, Sulfur from the Thought Criminals, Ant 80 from Dualcore, and Cecil Nick from Autocorrect. But we were talking about like when me and Eugene used to tour together, when people would get to know us, they would always say that Eugene's personality was like my music, and my personality was like Eugene's music. That our music were like each other's music were more representative of who we really were.
He comes up so much on this podcast, like the mythical shooting star who came in nerdcore, made a lot of noise, and then dropped the mic, and but affected a lot of people.
Yeah,
like Paul Barman, maybe.
Yeah.
But Paul's still doing stuff. I guess that's the difference.
I've heard stuff about him that he like really hates nerds and stuff. Like,
there's a funny story. Frontal Eye was telling me that he was at some show. It was like something Questlove had put together, and he was talking to Paul for a minute, and Damien didn't know it was Paul Barman. And Paul Barman didn't realize it was Frontal Eye, and they were having this conversation about art and culture. And so finally Paul goes, "So what do you do?" And Damien's like, "Well, I'm a nerdcore rapper." And then Paul just walks away.
Yeah, that sounds 100% accurate to the things I've heard. I've heard he's got like real hangups about people calling him a nerd rapper and stuff, which is weird because like his shit is all super nerdy.
Yeah,
but you know. I definitely knew who Paul was because I worked in a record store in the early 2000s. That's also how I found out about Mr. Dead at the time and stuff.
Yeah.
There was a lot of like underground and indie rap. I worked at Camelot Music, and I would just reach out to labels, like indie labels, and I would be like, "Hey, I work at a record store. I would love to put some of your stuff in a listening point. Like, we're a corporate chain, but I can control that at least since I'm in management." And they would just send me boxes of stuff. So, like, I got the first year of Def Jux releases before they came out because they would just like send me stuff.
So Labor Days, Fantastic Damage.
I had the Farewell Fondle compilation on a CDR that the label sent me.
Did you ever hear the Party Fun Action Committee?
Yes.
That had the Paul Barman parody on there.
It was like every song was like making fun of a different indie rapper.
It's such a niche thing, but it was like, dang.
I made friends with this woman who worked at 75 Arc. The original Deltron record came out on 75 Arc. They had the Coup. They put out the Coup's record, Party Music, which is actually what ended up kind of like bankrupting them.
The Coup thing bankrupted them because it came out in 9/11, right? It was
Yes.
them blowing up the Trade Center.
I actually have that record. There's less than 100 that exist, and because I knew this woman at the label, I wish I had it where I could pull it out and easily show it to you right now.
Because some of the listeners might not be hip on that. I know they probably know the Coup and that they've probably seen Sorry for Bothering You, right?
Yeah,
but let's talk about that album and the randomness of that.
The Coup's Kill My Landlord was on this list, and it was because the label was going bankrupt.
Okay.
So, and the Kill My Landlord is a record most people, probably even Coup fans, have not really heard. They were supposed to put out this record called Party Music. And for people who don't know, the Coup are a far leftist Marxist hip-hop band. They have like the farthest left politics you can have, but their music is also super fun. They're not like Rage Against the Machine always sounded angry. The Coup never sounds angry, like ever. Every song sounds like a party, and that's part of what makes them so fun.
That 5 million ways to kill a CEO.
Yeah, it's like so a fun. Straight up party jam.
Yeah.
It's a straight up party jam.
Yeah.
So that song's on that record. The album's called Party Music, and they sent the press release copies of Party Music to press on the morning of 9/11. The cover of the album is the World Trade Center blowing up, and the DJ Pam, who's a legendary female DJ from the Bay Area that was the DJ for the Coup until she passed away.
Pam the Funktress.
Yeah, Pam the Funktress. Amazing DJ, and she did a lot of really cool stuff. But so she's on the cover like waving like conductor batons, and Boots Riley, the rapper in the Coup, is pushing the button on a guitar tuner. So it looks like he's like pushing the button on the guitar tuner and it's blowing up the World Trade Center.
So here's what's crazy about that cover is that, first of all, that the explosions are both like roughly where the two planes hit.
Yeah.
They're high towards the top, which is like, what the heck? Like,
they probably regretted that after they got all the death threats and stuff.
There's that Jerry the Damager record, The Sun Rises in the East. Are you familiar with this? It's crazy because the cover of it is the World Trade Center. He's standing in front of it and it's in flames. And that was 94. So it was a year after the bombing with the car in the basement. But these rappers were not feeling the Trade Center.
I definitely listen to a lot of like political hip hop and stuff. So, have you ever heard You know who Paris is?
Oakland Cat.
Yeah, he's in Public Enemy now, I guess. But
That's right.
I met my wife in 2002, and like one of the first things we did, I had never really listened to the Clash, and she loaned me a bunch of Clash records, and I loaned her Paris's "Sleeping with the Enemy," which has the song he did, "Bush Killer." That's about killing George Bush.
Wow.
Pretty extreme. Like, got him kicked off their label. But that record by Paris, Sleeping with the Enemy, is the first appearance of DJ Shadow on record. Also, because DJ Shadow provided the samples for that record.
That's what's up. The cover is he's hiding behind a tree in front of the Capitol building with a gun, and Bush is waving.
Yes. I mean, really, other than soul, are there rappers brave enough to be doing stuff like that nowadays?
I think that you just know that you're gonna the NSA is gonna give you a call, and we're definitely, for the record, anyone from the government who's listening, we're not advocating. We don't advocate violence, right?
Yes, no, not at all.
So okay, so Thought Criminals, no friends.
The Thought Criminals thing was leading to how we got called Nerdcore. So we got booked with MC Frontalot. That is how we got pulled into Nerdcore.
You'd opened for Damien, so you probably knew, you'd looked up and known about what he was doing, right? Or did you kind of not research it?
Like, we got asked to do the Frontalot show or whatever, and I was like, I looked up his music in general. 0 Day wasn't out yet. It was about to come out. Told my band about it, and my guitarist went and found that documentary on Netflix, the Nerdcore Rising documentary. I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. And we had a band and stuff, ourselves and whatever. So that was interesting to me. But so anyway, people started calling us Nerdcore off of that. At around the same, so we put out our album Cold Winter in 2011. At the time, there was this dude, Adam WarRock, who was like blowing up. I did not know who he was. I did not know any of his music. But I hit him up. And I was like, hey, I have this song about Earthbound, and I need 4 MCs for it. And by this point, I already knew Raheem, so I had already asked Mega Ran to do it. And I was like, I got all these people to collaborate that were like really big names in nerdcore. Like I got Beefy, and I got WarRock, I got Mega Ran. It was like all these people that were on the either established or on the verge of kind of blowing up. So I was like, if we're going to be nerdcore, we're going to I'm going to make a dent in nerdcore like immediately. So I was like, I'm going to get like big names. And I had like this really concise plan for how I was going to put out the albums. Like, we're going to put out a really short record. It's going to be 30 minutes long. And it's just going to be like packed, like with dope shit. So I hit up Adam WarRock and I was like, hey, like I've already got Mega Ran on this song and we need one more MC. Would you be willing to put a verse on this? And so basically what happened is Adam WarRock thought I was much more famous than I really was. And I thought Adam WarRock was much more famous than he really was. But we were both just trying to like get our foothold as we like established ourselves in the scene. And that's how we ended up doing the song together. And we just did it as like, he did it for free. Like, I didn't pay anybody anything for any guest. That record was done on $0 budget. I mixed and mastered it myself, produced all the beats myself.
You're one of the rappers who does a lot of his own production, and you produce for other people, right?
Yeah.
You're like A$AP Rock in that way.
Yeah. I started playing instruments and stuff when I was in high school and started putting out tapes when I was like 13 or 14 that were like, I would do like this like folk punk kind of music that was like, had hip hop elements in it. Like I'd sample breaks and stuff. And that's kind of like how I got my start when I was like 13 or so, selling tapes in the hallway in my high school and stuff.
Of your own music.
Yes.
Cold Winter all Earthbound themed, or just that track?
Just that song. People they'll just grab a part of the soundtrack and just rap over it. And that's like all they do to it. Or people will like sample like a video game comes out, and Eugene would do this. Like, something comes out and a month later you put out a song about it with like a beat sampling it or whatever. Whenever I was coming up, that was definitely not like cool.
Well, it felt like too much of a gimmick.
Yeah, or it felt too like easy. Like I always feel like,
yeah,
I feel like part of the process for whenever I sample, and obviously people could point to shit that I'm being hypocritical on this about. But like, like when I did my DuckTales mixtape, there's a reason I got a different producer to produce it. I got Vince Vandal to produce my like DuckTales singles that I did. Yeah, when I broke up with my ex-girlfriend in high school, I just literally played that game over and over for 24 hours, just like beating it, speed running it.
It's therapeutic.
Like, it's one of my favorite platformers of all time. I can just get on that game and I have the levels just memorized to the point I could just like, it's like eating a comfort food or something.
Is the moon level game song, that's about healing from the breakup? Or
that music was really important to me as a kid. It was some of my favorite video game music, and it elicits a certain emotion from me.
You said something interesting, and then I want to talk about Earthbound after this. You said that us OG Def Jux bred, Anticon bred dudes felt like doing a rap song about a video game, sampling the video game, and doing a video felt too easy. But that's how all the Gen 3 YouTubers blew the hell up. The dudes with 1 million followers.
Absolutely.
Because they just did lyric videos with the gameplay stuff, and it was great. Mm-hmm. And there were no rules. Kind of like when Def Jux came along, you didn't have to just sample George Clinton. You could all of a sudden, you know what I mean? Every generation redefines the rules, and I think that's cool. But that's interesting how you had like a instinct to not do that.
I think I've had people get mad when I talk about like limitations I set on myself in the studio. I have like personal rules for what I will and won't do when I'm sampling, or even the way I record my vocals. I up until my last album, I didn't punch in on vocal recordings. All my vocals were like one takes.
Kanye West style.
I would re-record it over and over until I got the whole song without needing to punch in.
So the opposite of front a lot.
Yeah, one of our mutual friends got mad that I said I did that, and I wasn't saying it to take anything away from what anybody else does. It was Schaefer, actually. I posted about it on Facebook.
Because he felt that was an unnecessary flex, or what?
Yeah, I think he thought I was trying to take something that I was saying that made me better than other people. I used to use a combination of a cassette 4-track in the 90s, which was like, for people who are not as old as us, a cassette 4-track is like you had 4 channels. It recorded the left and right sides of both sides of a tape at the same time.
Right.
So you could overdub. You could overdub, like you had those 4 channels and that was it. So like that would. The combination I used to use for making beats is I used the cassette 4-track, and I figured out how to glitch a sound recorder on Windows 3.1 in the 90s. And I would use those two things together in weird ways to make like the beats I made at the time, because it was all I had and I had to think outside the box. So I think like whenever you set rules for yourself, and you, with sampling, with producing, stuff like that, when you set rules for yourself, you limit yourself, you don't give yourself an infinite world of options. You create situations where you have to think in interesting ways about how to finish songs.
The mother of invention, right?
Yeah.
And that's the whole argument where why everyone will tell you the episode 4 through 6 are the best Star Wars movies, because Lucas was technically limited, so he was able to be creative. I would agree with you, man. And I think that when I have like aesthetic limitations for my beats and stuff, they're better for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I actually, one of my fans sent Capcom the DuckTales song.
Ah, cool.
And then they sent me a bunch of little DuckTales action figures that I still have somewhere.
Are you serious?
Somewhere in my studio. So they never said it was okay I did it, but they've definitely heard it.
That's cool. And so it's like a metaphor for like being on the road feels like being.
Yeah, it was kind of like like the intro to it. Like the intro sketch, I'm like, this shit like feels like sampling the Beatles, but what better music to sample for a song about reaching for the fucking stars? It's so corny.
That's ill. That is one of your most played Spotify songs too. I'm looking.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my. It's one I do at all the shows too. So it's definitely like a live staple for me.
Speaking of space and planets, let's talk about Earthbound.
The story behind this song is a story that I've got like a whole long thing I wrote about it that I've never actually published, but I'm going to tell you about it.
This is great. Exclusive.
I wrote this song, and I had my band playing it. Sulfur had missed rehearsal. But so he was like, that sounds like Earthbound. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, if you want to flip it into an Earthbound song, it had a lot of video game sounds in it, but I don't even know if any of the sounds are from Earthbound. I think everything is more like, there's some like stuff I use from like Paperboy for like extra drum hits and stuff like that, but I don't think there's anything from Earthbound actually in the song, even though it's a song about Earthbound.
Which is cool. Cooler, probably.
Yeah. I like that it like flipped it in a different way. Like, that was at the time, like I said, I was using so much Nintendo stuff. That was also around the time, like after we finished Cold Winter and I'd gotten Eugene on Earthbound, like he was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing a Browncoats mixtape. Like, do you want to do that with me? And I was like, yeah, sure, but I've never watched that show in my life.
Yeah, because WarRock is a big Firefly fan.
Yeah.
Is it Joss Whedon?
Yeah,
okay.
It is Joss Whedon. It's the only show of his I've ever watched, actually, other than like the Avengers movies. There's this war between like this governing body that's kind of like the UN, I guess, versus all these independent planets. And the independent planets lose. And the captain of the ship in Firefly is this guy who was a general in that war, I guess, or like he was a ranking officer in the Browncoats that was like the Independents or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so basically he's like a smuggler, kind of like a Han Solo type character, and he puts together this ragtag crew that flies around in space doing smuggling jobs and stuff. And it kind of just goes from there. It's awesome, and it has like a really great soundtrack. Obviously, I think that, but
it was one season. Only lasted one season.
It's like it's like 13 episodes, I think.
But it's so 12. Revered, isn't it? As like it's like something.
It is
one of the most famous canceled too early shows, huh?
I think it definitely benefits from that too, because it never had a chance to get bad. You know?
Did you ever read like the comics? Because I know there's.
I have. I've liked the comics I've read from it. I haven't read all of them though. I own all of them. I've only read about half of them though.
That's what's up. Okay, so back to Earthbound, because I remember I interviewed Blake Harris, who wrote a book about Nintendo's battle with Sega, and
nice.
He talks about Earthbound, or in Japan it was called Mother, right?
Yeah.
And
there's three games in the series in Japan, and only 2 of them have been officially released here. So
what is since we're summarizing these classic franchises, it's an RPG, right?
It is an RPG. It's very irreverent, and it has a lot of comedy in it, in a way that a lot of RPGs at the time didn't have. And it also is a modern setting instead of being like a wild fantasy setting. But it also deals with like psychic kids and going to other dimensions and aliens and shit. There's just a lot going on in that game. And I've made it as far as like this like cloud world in it.
On the first one. Is it translated in English? I'm sure it is. It has to be.
Yeah. The crazy thing with the first game was actually scheduled to come out on Nintendo in America. They completely had it translated and finished. It was ready to ship. They just decided not to release it. They had already put the money into localizing it and stuff. They just didn't put it out. So whenever they finally put it out on Wii U, it literally was just the game that they had prepared like in the 90s.
Wow.
And just never released here. It was pretty weird of Nintendo to do that.
There's this thing in Japanese culture about the special kid generation, or like it's kind of like in Akira and Ghost in the Shell, the resonance of the atomic bomb and how that like has created a new generation, and like the fear that comes from like what can happen and how like kids can be corrupted, or how they can have this power to do destructive things. And like I remember reading in the book about how that manifests with the subconscious of Japan, and why that game resonated so well over there, and why, like you said, it was only one game here and not as big of a hit. And that, like an example, how the different cultures in Japan, you know?
If Nintendo decides they don't think something's going to be a hit, it doesn't matter how much money they've sunk into it. They're notorious for just axing stuff.
They probably knew it would have a different resonance.
Yeah.
A game I love that I'm playing a lot, even though I'm 37, I love is Luigi's Mansion 3.
I haven't bought it yet, but I loved the first one on GameCube.
Oh, man, it's so fun. It's so spooky and funny, and I love it. I love that everything Nintendo does with their proprietary characters, you just know it's going to be a hit, and that's why it's like a testament to their like integrity as a company, you know?
I played the hell out of the Wii U. It was like that console's way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
I think in 10 years, people are going to talk about the Wii U the way that they talk about the Dreamcast now. So people talk about the Dreamcast now like it was like this slept-on system that did all this cool stuff before everybody else, and it should have been huge. And they're right. I had a Dreamcast, and it was awesome. But that's what the Wii U was, too. The Wii U should have been like a game changer. It was actually Nintendo's fault that it failed, though. It was a marketing failure. It was a great console, had great games that came out for it, but it wasn't marketed properly. I dress as Luigi every Halloween and stuff. Like, I always wear his classic 1984 colors with the white overalls and the green shirt.
That's what's up. So you got to be careful where you sit, right? If you go to a party.
Yeah.
You just dropped your new EP, Terminal.
Okay, so Terminal is something of a stylistic departure for me. So most of the beats that I do for myself tend to be like really 90s sounding and stuff. And this is an EP of me rapping over beats by DJ Pain 1. And the beats are all like very, very much the sound of like Jay-Z around the time of the Blueprint, like the first Blueprint record. The Blueprint was the record that like made me a Jay-Z fan. So it's kind of like the EP is something of a love letter to that album, but it also is like me just trying to demonstrate like me flexing a style that people might not be familiar with hearing me do, but that demonstrating I can rhyme well over those kind of beats, and using those beats as kind of like a springboard to talk about a lot of different stuff. Like I talk about my cancer, and it's got a love song on it that I wrote to my wife, and I cover a lot of ground in 4 songs.
And Pain 1 is dope. I did a track with him a while ago.
Yeah?
I linked through him through Soul.
Actually, one year Pain 1 came to the Nerdcore showcase. You were there that year.
He was there?
Yeah. We hung out at the bar. I don't know if you know, do you know Randy Greenback?
No.
Randy is a video games developer that is a mutual friend of me and Soul. And me and Soul had met a couple times. But I think we became more friends after realizing we both knew Randy. Randy's really cool though. He's a dude that he developed like some of the early Ghost Recon games, the Grawl games and stuff. So it was like crazy that this dude's like a friend of mine now that developed this game me and my brother used to play together all the time.
That's amazing, man.
But he worked on Command and Conquer and a bunch of other stuff. But
that's what's up.
So he kind of but anyway, like, yeah, I knew Pain 1 through Soul. And that one year where Pain 1 came to the Nerdcore showcase was because Randy was there, because I had Randy DJ for me that year.
Man, South by, so many good memories of South by, and you go every year pretty much, right? Because you're one of the people who helps pick the acts, right?
I used to be.
Yeah.
Last year, I kind of like last year, as far as I knew, I was helping, but then they kind of just like the communication chain broke down and stuff. So I don't help anymore. I don't know for sure if I'm even going this year. It takes a lot out of me.
It's expensive.
The stuff with helping was really, really stressful. It also resulted in like tons of people being mad at me all the time and saying that I was like blocking them from getting booked and stuff.
That's a hard thing, man. Because I remember you were kind of, what was Linda the woman who helped run it? Yeah,
Linda's the one who she works for South by.
Right.
Yeah, she knew that I booked shows in Charlotte and stuff. We met through Frontalot, actually. Me and her did.
That's cool. So and I remember it used to be 2 nights, and what, these days is it just one?
It was one last year. They tried to get 2, but the venue fell through last year. Mm-hmm. So there's always too many people booked, though. Every single year. It's like, and it's too many people on one showcase.
It runs late. I remember the last time I did it, I got a 10-minute set, and but I love seeing all my friends, and I hope to do it again one day. But My favorite thing I ever got at South by was I met my wife who played our show.
Yeah. Okay. So at the time, I was making music with Claire.
Oh, yeah. Oh, geez.
Yeah. And I think I'm the one who told Linda about them because I was like, yo, I got this friend Claire and she's got a group and we should book them. And we were always looking for like more women to put on the bill. That was always like an important thing for us. Claire moved to LA and then we quit ever working on anything. And for a while I was doing some beats and we were supposed to be doing a record together, but just never materialized. And they got booked with my friends that used to run the Milestone and don't anymore, John Hughes and his wife. They have a group called Sex Message that is like a synth pop duo. So they played together.
They toured that summer, I guess, right?
Yeah, and I think I came to that show, and that's how I actually like met them in person for the first time, and then we just started talking from there.
That's crazy, man. The scene has become a haven for people who don't do nerdy rap, but are intelligent, progressive people who it's very adjacent. Like I think Samus is another example, someone who's like, people in the scene like her and she does stuff with us and her name is a video game reference. And
by my definition, she's nerdcore just because she's in the scene, but I know she wouldn't agree. So like, obviously I would never push that. But the first time I did a show with her, I think it was me and Adam WarRock and maybe Jesse Dangerously and her. She had like really bad stage fright at that time, and we played a couple shows there over a couple tours, and then she went on tour with Raheem, and man, she grew so much. It was like she came back and was just a monster. Like she was so good.
She's his K-Flay. I think it's really cool how the scene has really blossomed, and it's fostered the careers of so many people, but it's also not really changed that much with like the good values and the friendships.
If you're good and you're in nerdcore, then everybody's you're gonna be friends with everybody that's good in nerdcore pretty fast. If you think of like America as like as music, like indie music, then indie hip hop is New England, and then nerdcore is Rhode Island. Progressively smaller scenes. So it becomes like...
And South by is Providence.
Yeah, pretty much. But if you're good, your name's just going to get around and people are going to see you doing stuff because, like, how would they not? It's like a local scene where the location is the internet, you know, like...
Yeah, totally. And of course, if you want to, like, do well and grow, you're a New Englander. You're not from Rhode Island. That's how you brand yourself. That's the move that everyone who does well like claims. And so, how you been feeling?
I'm good. 2 years ago I got more than 2 years ago I got it, but 2 years ago I had surgery to remove my cancerous testicle because I had testicular cancer, so that was pretty scary, not ideal, but I just had my first scan in a year because my insurance is horrible. Got my first scan in a year, and there is no evidence of cancer in me. They don't say you're cancer free until you hit a couple years or whatever, but there's no evidence of cancer in my body as of right now. So I'm good right now. So
that's awesome, dude.
It was pretty scary at the time though. On Halloween Day 2 years ago, I was going under the knife. Didn't get to go trick-or-treating with my kids. It sucked pretty bad.
And I saw you, I think, shortly after at MagFest, right?
Yeah, we ran into
2 months
MagFest.
after.
That's when Bryce was like, let me give you the healing touch or something and cut my balls or ball.
Oh, he did. Oh, Bryce.
It was a very Bryce moment.
We were at Anime Midwest. We were on the roster doing a panel. He gets up, gets on his knees, and relieves himself under the stage in front of the packed audience while we're talking. We're like, what's Bryce doing? I'm like, I know exactly what he's doing. I'm not going to mention it, but he just, his theory. So real quick, do you know Pascal's wager? Have you heard of this philosophy term?
I've heard the term, but I don't know.
It's the idea that Pascal's wager is that like God may not exist, but if he does, you may as well believe in him and Christianity because you'll go to heaven because you have nothing to lose, right? So his theory is like when the aliens come here, they might not, but if they do, they want to, whoever's peed all over the planet they'll see as being a dominant species, and they'll adopt him to come on the spaceship. That's why Bryce freely urinates everywhere.
I enjoyed your conversation with Bryce also. That was another one that actually, now that you mentioned that, stands out to me.
We got into
me and Bryce
it.
we're very, I think mine and your politics are pretty similar. Mine might be farther left than you, but I think we're pretty similar politically. So I was definitely more on your side during your and his conversation. So I have a story about Bryce too.
Okay.
And it also involves peeing. So
That's funny.
I don't think he'll mind me telling this story. And Bryce, if you do mind, I hope you forgive me. So, because I'm going to tell this story. So we played DEF CON together the past couple of years. I've done DEF CON with Dual Core for 3 years now. DEF CON is like, for people who don't know, it's kind of the South by Southwest of hacking. It is like the most hugest security conference in the world. Hackers from all over the world come to Vegas for a week, get drunk, go to talks, and wow out. Like, I mean, you know, you're ostensibly at DEF CON to go to talks and learn things and network, but really what everybody does is get really fucked up and go like party for a week. They call it Hacker Summer Camp. You know, for me, it's a work trip because we do like 5 shows a day most days, and we're like running from place to place. And anytime I'm not like performing, I'm working merch. So I don't really get a lot of time to do stuff at DEF CON like I would like. Anyway, so we played main stage with Bryce, I guess, like every year since I started going. This year we show up and they're like, good news, Bryce, we're ahead of schedule. Like things are going really smooth and going to start on time. But what is happening is Bryce is currently on stage at the time. He's DJing for himself. He's wearing pajamas on stage and he's drinking straight from the bottle of Jameson. Mm-hmm. Faded as fuck. And he's wilding. And so when we show up, the show is ahead of schedule.
Our panel went late, you know, because he had a lot to say. But
oh, yeah. Well, that was, I'm sure.
He's a loquacious gentleman.
So he goes long. He gets off stage. He's talking to me. And like, I'm looking for a new job. Anybody listening? I am looking for a new job. I'd love to move security side. I'm currently a system administrator for an academic publisher. So anyway, I'm talking to Bryce about that. Bryce is like, he talks to one of the security guys who's one of what they call goons at DEF CON, who's like a hacker guy that works for a big company. And he's like, hey, can you, like, my friend was looking for a job, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, excuse me for a minute, gentlemen. And he walks off. And I'm talking to that dude. I'm not looking in Bryce's direction at all, but over frontal eye on stage, I hear Bryce peeing. Like, over the music in this huge fucking 1,000-person holding venue room. I hear Bryce peeing, and the fucking security guy, his eyes just like fell. His face just fell. He's like, oh my God, tell me he's not doing what I think he is.
He was backstage or he was on stage?
No, he was like to the left of the stage. There was no backstage. So
just
he's like literally the crowd is, yes.
Pascal's
and the crowd's
wager.
Like 15 feet away from us.
Or did people notice? Because I noticed like when my thing when I'm with him and he's peeing all over the place, if you don't notice, less people do. You don't freak out. It doesn't.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I didn't acknowledge it. The security freaked out and they ended up like making Bryce leave and stuff. But I was like, damn it, Bryce. Like, what are you doing, man?
Wildin'.
He was fucking wildin', man.
So speaking of gangster subgenres and hip hop as a fringe movement, let's end our interview today talking about Insane Clown Posse and your Juggalo roots. Should you have them? Because I remember we were listening to Violent J's autobiography. You and Raheem were like texting about it. And what's good with that?
So me and you have talked about ICP a few times over the years.
Yeah.
I think the first time we ever had the conversation was at South by one time, like on the roof of some club we were at.
Yep.
So yeah, I got into ICP in the 90s.
What record?
It was Riddlebox. Had to be Riddlebox.
Mutilation Mix era. Tunnel of Love era.
Yes.
Right.
At the time I wrote a lot of books. I actually was really into like writing fiction in the in the 90s and stuff. And I had me and this guy who we would write stories together. We wrote this story about this like jester dude who like was like a murderer or something. And so like, I don't remember if he heard about it or I heard about it, but one of us was like, oh man, I heard this band and it's like kind of like this story we wrote about like this murderous clown. And so we started listening to it. Immediately I liked the beats. To me, I was like, I had grown up into the Ghetto Boys and NWA and stuff. And to me, like ICP's rapping, especially on the early stuff, is so influenced by that stuff.
Yeah.
That it was like, oh, well, this is just a bunch of story songs, but instead of like street stories, they're telling horror stories.
And Above the Law, you remember them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like, to me, it was just like late 80s gangster rap, but just about like Stephen King concepts. Like Prom Queen and stuff like that was the stuff that like really caught my eye. And I liked the more melodic production they had.
Yeah.
But then they also had shit like Get Off Me Dog it's fucking the sample in Get Off Me Dog and the bass line in that. I think it's the meters. And like the original version of the Chicken Hunting samples, the meters. Like they had these like dope funk samples and stuff, but they also had for the 90s stuff, and then they had like a more clean like West Coast sound like Dr. Dre for like Riddlebox and the later stuff. So I don't know. To me, it was just like, well, this is just more rap I like, and it just fell into the mix. And I really liked Mike Clark's production, like across all those records. So and I always enjoyed Violent J's sense of humor.
Right.
That Violent J had such an absurdist sense of humor, and that is very in line with my sense of humor. I love the absurd and just the over-the-top ridiculousness. I loved that I grew up extremely poor, like extremely poor, like windows in my bedroom. If you go back to my parents' house, the windows are busted out. There's holes in all the walls. Like I grew up in real fucking poverty, eating food from the Hungry Barrel, shit like that. So like ICP's story resonated with me because they also grew up really poor and they weren't ashamed of it. Like it was like, if anything, they bragged about it.
Yeah.
And so like that resonated with me as like a poor kid with a really ridiculous sense of humor, who was into a lot of nerdy shit.
Who loved rap.
Like, yeah, ICP was like proto nerdcore in its way for that. And when I got into ICP, there was like, when I got the access to the internet, there was message boards. I used to go to Juggalo News and Real Juggalos. That's like an even older site. I think that Real Juggalos and Juggalo News are Fago lovers now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It was like the two. But like I used to go to their forums and stuff. I have a quote all the time. Like people ask me like about like, when are people talking about like early reviews of people giving you like scathing things they said about you? I remember on one of the Juggalo message boards, I had posted one of my songs and somebody said that I sounded like a redneck trying to rap with a New York accent.
Which is now a whole subgenre of rap.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But like I got those message boards and stuff, like a lot of the people who were on those message boards back then, what Juggalos was just nerdy rap fans.
Right.
Right. Like the place I heard about MF Doom originally was on a Juggalo message board. The way I found out about so much progressive hip hop was actually Juggalo message boards in the 90s. And I don't think most people would like guess that, like definitely from what public perception is of what Juggalos are and stuff. I don't think people would guess that.
I think it was a Venn diagram of the ones who were on the internet, right? Because like they weren't all on the internet, and like in Jay's book, he talks about how he was rarely on the internet. So yeah, and it's his culture that runs so deep and it's persisted, and it's multi-generational. You probably aren't checking for their new stuff these days, or
I am a fan of Violent J as a person.
Yeah.
Right? Like he is like I love Violent J. He is like a person who is not always a good person, but he wants to be a good person. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he actively does like he really genuinely wants to be like a good person, and I love watching his relationship with his kids, how supportive he is of his children. His daughter's like really into being a furry, and like Jay had a fursuit made and goes with her to like furry conventions and stuff.
Right.
And like I think it's really cool that he's like so supportive and not judgmental of his
He
kids.
sounds like a Twitch streamer. Shout out to him. He follows me on Twitter. Shout out to Spida.
Nice. Nice. I have all the Joker's cards on vinyl now, I think.
Whoop, whoop. You do. Jeez
Duh.
Louise. You know, it's a rare one and an expensive one is Riddle Box.
Yeah. I did get, they did reissue it though, and I did get one of those, I think.
They did. Okay.
I think I have Riddle Box. I kind of want to grab them now. I can actually see, I have the JCW tapes. Do you remember those when they had their own wrestling league? The JCW stuff, I mean, they did the commentary.
Yeah.
Just like they did on Stranglemania, but it was for their wrestling league or whatever. But yeah, so I do check out the newer stuff. I do think it's really hit or miss sometimes whenever they try to do some of the like more modern rap styles. I can't really vibe with it.
On Fred Fury, you're talking about?
Yeah. I haven't listened to Flip the Rat yet.
That has a lot of cameos, which is cool.
I tell you, I loved Twisted in the 90s.
Yeah.
And
Favorite Twisted record?
it's either Most Tasteless, the original version, or not the reissue that came out on Def Jam, or it's Green Book. One or the other.
Both great. I would say Most Tasteless for me.
Freak Show's really fucking sloppy and good because it's sloppy though, because it's such like it's like an accidentally punk rock rap record, like Freak Show.
Yeah.
I can't recommend Twisted because they say the N-word constantly. Whenever they recorded Most Tasteless, they actually had a black dude in the group, and I think that makes it like even worse. Like,
Wait. You're talking about ROC or no?
yeah, so everything on Most Tasteless on the original version was originally House of Crazy songs,
And they just took out his parts?
Yeah, and he even produced some of that stuff, to my understanding.
Wow.
They just cut him off it. But more than that, I saw their last tour that they did when they were still with Psychopathic. And that show was such a negative experience for me. It was a show where all they played was old stuff, and it just felt like they were phoning it in the whole time.
Yeah. I saw them at Webster Hall in New York. They had 7 openers.
Yikes. That sounds excruciating.
And then I saw them at Warped Tour twice because I played 2 of the shows they were on that festival. And they had a drummer and they crushed it. But they don't, the songs that have the N-word, they don't say it, which I guess is good. But you're right. That's something that was different about them and ICP that like.
ICP never said
no,
that. Like,
no, they never did.
It's like
and they're on the right side of history for that, you know?
Yeah. I think I actually watched an interview with them that was with Twisted. They were on Be Real's show he has. I don't know if you've ever watched it. But it's like a YouTube show Be Real from Cypress Hill has. Cypress Hill is like one of my biggest influences. The first 2 Cypress Hill records are part of the reason I make rap music. What Be Real does on this show is he sits in his car in a garage, and he smokes weed with people and interviews them. And Twisted was on there, and he asked Twisted about, like, they hadn't said the N-word on their newer record or whatever. And he asked them about it, and they were like, you know, they had the whack answer where they were like, we don't think it's bad to say it or whatever. But they were saying, we don't think it's bad to say it the way we say it, but we had fans come up to us and say it, and we were like, oh. And it, like, hearing their fans say it to them made them realize they didn't want to say it anymore in their music. So I guess that's some kind of progress, but it still fucking sucks. I don't know. Madrox is like a great rapper too. Like I do think he's genuinely a really good MC.
I met him at Warped Tour. He was cool. He shook my hand. He was cool. I didn't meet Paul, but yeah. If they and ICP had able to maintain their friendship and like work out the business stuff and all this stuff with Jay's niece and everything and the Axe Murder Boys, that they would probably be, as a collective, crushing it, doing more Dark Lotus, but maybe not. Maybe that time came and went. I mean,
I don't know. It's weird to me with ICP's signings over the years. You know, like, I mean, I have, for the 90s stuff, I have like everything. I got the fucking Paralela Isla EP and shit by Misery. Like, I've got all that stuff.
Classic.
But yeah, so like Misery was like actually a good rapper though, and just doing kind of normal gangster rap.
Yeah,
it's kind of, I think the like early Project Born stuff was the same way.
Yeah, I was gonna say I love Project Born. Born Dead.
They did like, it was like the Fushnikins type, like tickety tongue twist, like raps all the time that those guys did.
They were so young.
Yeah,
I love Losing It, that song with Isham.
Yeah,
Woo!
Yeah.
So
man, I was really into horrorcore for a while, so I have like all the early Isham stuff too. A lot of that stuff is reprehensible. I guess I have to like clarify. I recommend none of this to anybody.
Isham is awesome.
It's all stuff I would never say on my own records and that I find offensive now.
Symptoms of Insanity.
Wicked Worldwide by Nada's record was my jam.
Yep.
There's so many good fucking songs on that record. Like, I tried to watch the documentary about Isham a while back. His brother was like legit schizophrenic.
What's called The Death of an Indie Label or something, right?
Something like that. It is horrifying to watch. It depressed me so bad I had to turn it off.
Why? I haven't watched it.
It is so dark, man. Like his brother has schizophrenia.
Uh-huh.
He made him his business manager, and they're living in like total poverty. And his brother's got like an occult shrine built up, and is making everybody piss into buckets and save it and stuff because he's talking about the energy it preserves. It is fucked up, man. Like it is bleak. Yeah, it's dark. Like, it's on YouTube. You can watch the whole thing on YouTube.
It's produced very inexpensively, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very so. There's a documentary about Cage that is really similar. That is equally will make you not want to hear his music for a while.
That's what's up. It's like when I saw Nerdcore Rising. Hey. I want to say that I think Ouija Mac is ill, and he's one of their greatest new signings. And he was real cool to me when I met him.
I don't love the weird like aesthetic he has, I guess.
Yeah, he's their SoundCloud rapper. Yeah. I don't like the video where he's peeing on the women. I don't know if I can bump that on the way to the Women's March.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
And I think Big Hoodoo's great. The song The Yard. Have you bumped that?
I need to actually listen to him. I've not checked him out.
We met all these dudes at the gathering, and they were all so nice, and so it made me like intensify my love for them. And they were really, Raheem was really like up on everyone, and hey, we got a good reaction. We played at like 4 a.m. We're supposed to play at 1.
Holy shit! Yeah.
We went on before the Mafia 6, which is their thing with 3-6 Mafia.
Yeah, the spinoff.
And it was just, it was. You've never been to a gathering?
I have not. I think Sean Sulfur has been to one.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that whenever I found Sulfur talking about me on MySpace, I noticed they had a Jekyll Brothers banner in the background of one of his MySpace photos.
That's right.
And at the time, Sean had like a Hatchet Man tattoo and stuff even.
If I had tattoos, I would surely have one. I don't, though. But I'm just saying.
I have like a skin condition where like I get really bad hives and stuff, so I actually can't get tattoos. So
I like this interview because we talked about your history as an artist. We talked about our shared fandoms. Mm-hmm. We told amusing anecdotes about our mutual acquaintances that the fans will love because it's proprietary information. We talked about Firefly and Earthbound. Mm-hmm. Talked about Def Jux. I mean, this has been like probably one of the most far-ranging podcasts I've done, and I love this, dude. I love it.
That's what I liked whenever I've listened to you. I don't remember which one it was I listened to, but you guys went off on indie rap stuff. It wasn't the Bryce one, and it wasn't the Lou one either. But I was listening to one of your podcasts, and you went off on a tangent with indie rap with him, and I was like, oh man, I want to talk about old rap with Lars. Because I don't know if you remember years ago, me and you. It was me, you. It was a South by one year. It was me, you, Buck 65, Jesse Dangerously.
What a crew!
Frontline, and we had somebody else with us, and we all went and saw the Ghetto Boys.
And Eminem.
We all went and saw the Ghetto Boys together. We saw the Ghetto Boys and Magnetic MCs open.
Yes, sir. What a show!
It was such a good show. But we talked a little bit about the indie rap stuff then and the old school hip hop that we grew up on even back then. I think they did Assassins, which of course like ICP covered later. But like Ghetto Boys for me are like huge influence. Like that's like.
Well, Z talked about the story of going to the show with you 2 weeks ago. And then remember we saw him Bushwick Bill had been in and out of the hospital. So there's a part where remember he lies down like he's passed out, like he's sick, and they're like, Bill, you okay? He goes, Bill, you okay? And he gets up and he goes, I'm a mother effing monster, like a zombie.
That show that we went to in Charlotte, that was me and that Z was there.
Yeah.
Stevie D from the Illbots was there. A bunch of people were there, but like they did the Office Space song. When it's not the Office Space song, it's it's actually their song, but and I can't think of the name of the song. It's the song that has "Die Motherfucker Die" in the chorus because it's the one that the Twisted actually references. And
you know what Scarface song I love is G Code. Ooh,
oh god, that's a great song. G Code's so great.
Yeah,
Scarface, like he plays guitar and he's like a really good guitarist. Did you know that?
I didn't know that's ill.
He has a collection of like over 200 guitars, and he owns one of Jimi Hendrix's original guitars.
Ooh.
There's a video on YouTube. You should look it up later. There's a video on YouTube of Scarface jamming with a rockabilly band in Houston and just soloing over this rockabilly band. And Scarface, I mean, he's a huge dude, so he looks like he's holding like a toy guitar because he's so big.
Yeah.
But yeah, Scarface did a tour recently where he had like a band with him and he played instruments on it. Maybe it wasn't recently. Maybe it was like 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
You know what? Some of the best MCs are also like instrumentalists.
Yeah. He plays drums on The Fix even,
Jeez,
actually.
Louise. He's like Flavor Flav.
Yeah.
Multi-talented.
Yeah. Scarface is like the Johnny Cash of rap. He's a dude that you can take equally seriously when he's talking about how much he loves Jesus and about how he will shoot you. When he says it, you believe it.
He's the guy who brought lyricism and storytelling to the South.
Yeah.
People always recognize him as one of the greatest lyricists ever.
He's Southern as fuck, and he's got that. He does not try to rap like he's from New York. He raps like a dude from Houston should rap. Like, it's just like he got that thick drawl, and he leans on it. It's so dope. I talked about Jay-Z earlier. The thing that actually got me into Jay-Z.
This Can't Be Life.
Yes, that's it. I love that beat, and I love those verses. Scarface found out on his way to the studio that his friend's daughter had been killed. And he goes into the booth and he's like crying on the track, like while he's rapping. They said he basically showed up, went straight to the booth, recorded his verse and left, like without speaking to anybody. Just like went into the booth, crying, recorded, left. But man, that verse is like, it just like hits you like a ton of bricks. It's so good. I think Beanie Siegel says something really ignorant, like in his verse. So I apologize for that part that you'll hear on your way to the Scarface verse.
I thought it'd be funny to have a cartoon character. It's like a bird that has a hat. It's a Beanie Siegel.
Oh, yeah.
That's a character I want to make. Speaking of ill classic verses, what track should we end with, and perhaps something from your new EP?
If you're going with something from my new EP, the thing that I've considered the single is the love song that I did on the track on there. It's called The Word Was Good.
I like a good love song.
Yes.
I know the audience will too. Why do you spell your name the way you do? Because I always forget how to spell it.
It's funny, like, all right, so my real name is Mikal kHill. And Kill is just an abbreviation with the kHill.
With the capital H.
Yeah, when I put out and that's why it has the capital H, is because my last name's Hill.
So do you say, are we supposed to say Kill or kHill? How are we supposed to refer to you?
It should be Mikal kHill.
Okay, that's what I've been calling you.
Yeah, the spelling of Michael came from, my grandma gave me this book that was made by Reader's Digest called Who's Who in the Bible. And one of the Hebrew spellings of Michael that I remember seeing in that book was the way I spell it. And I just thought it looked cool, but the Kill thing, when I started putting out tapes in high school, like I was talking about, my first tapes were done under the name Kill. And I spelled it that way. And, I basically came up with Kill because I needed a name in a chat room in like 1993 when I was like on those like AOL chat forums at my friend's house when I was a kid. So that's basically how I came up with it, and it just kind of like became my rap name. Frontal gave me a lot of shit about my name when we were hanging out at DEF CON. He was like, I thought they got hoisted on you. You chose that. I was like, your rap name is MC Frontal. You can't give me shit about this.
Yeah. Wait, he thought who would have foisted a rap name on you? A label?
Yeah, well, like people give you nicknames. That happens.
I see.
If you
That's
don't
right.
like the nickname, you're about 100% more likely that it will become your nickname.
Right. That's true. That's funny. But we all have pejorative names we've given ourselves in nerd rap.
Yeah, Mikal kHill became the thing. I've had like other characters I came up with over the years. Like I definitely had I had like a horrorcore rap project that we worked on for a little bit that I used a different name on and stuff, but
Called Twisted.
no, it was called like, it was named after a thing from Evil Dead actually. And it was,
What's it called?
I don't know. I'm scared you'd find it.
Well, that's what I'm asking. I'm going to find it, bro.
Some of that might be.
I'm going to ask Eugene.
I started doing horrorcore stuff in the 90s for a little while.
Was it called Michael Myers?
No. There's a rapper called Michael Myers who misspells it kind of like, looks kind of like my name.
Where do you like people to follow you? Twitter?
Yeah.
Instagram?
Twitter is good. Instagram's good. But you can find links to all of my social media accounts at my website. And my website is howcouldyoudothisto.me.
And then your website is kind of old school, like Windows 95,
Yep.
which is the setup. It's very dope. I really recommend y'all check out his site because no one puts effort and time into their sites. It's all social media.
Yeah.
Not Mikal kHill.
Yeah, well, I wanted because my name is spelled stupid and stuff, it's always like hard to explain to people how to find my stuff. So I was like, I need something that's like a phrase I can give people and it's just easy to remember. So there's like a link on there that links to all my social media accounts and stuff. Twitter is I'm trying to post more on Twitter and less on Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook's evil. Facebook is a demon that took our attention away.
Facebook sucks in general on multiple levels. The biggest thing with Facebook is like the way it hides everything from everybody. It's like hard to reach people whenever they don't get to see what you post.
Unless you want to give them skrill and cheddar.
Yeah.
And even then, I used to monetize my tour dates, put like $500 into that. And I realized, nah, that ain't helping.
Yeah. Now,
maybe it does, but
when they first started doing it, it felt like it made a difference. But the last times that I've done it, I've gotten no increase in any attention.
Dropping ducats on these fools, but it's all good. You got to do it. It's like you got to brush your teeth. I got to post. I drop a video. I got to post on Facebook, and even though I have a lot of followers, you're right. It's just whatever. We live in a dystopian, scary future.
Yeah,
that's what's up. So Twitter, Mikal kHill, Facebook, how could you do this to .me? And we're going to end with a uplifting love song from Terminal, which is available everywhere. The word was good, and the words today were great.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Thanks, Michael. You've been an amazing guest. We're gonna turn off the mic and you're gonna tell me those two stories.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, here's the song. We're gonna talk. Bye.
Love is just a word, but what we have runs deeper. Used to think it couldn't last, but you made me a believer. Dragging by the door, best believe that I'm a light sleeper. Stay through the times while they stay and played out like a reaper. Spend my younger days a mere fool with a broke heart. From the start, played a part, absurd, dying for art. Wasn't married to the game, it was more like a landlord. Untoward, half drunk, falling on my own sword. My lord, I see now it's embarrassing. Back in my 20s, you can see I wasn't caring shit. Dramatics average, simple-minded savage. Now you make me feel at home like eating steamed cabbage. What we have is magic, you're killing it. Woman above average. Come home, I'm nothing but a static. Couple detours try to turn the tale tragic, but I don't need nothing else. I already have it. Hope you see it in my eyes, but I put it in the words, so I know you know how I feel. You make it all worth it. Hope you see it in my eyes, but I put it in the words, so I know you know how I feel. You make it all worth it. Wrote my own heart start, you wrote your name in the cast. The future banded in gold, blot out the dark of the past. But the reality is, the past is always creeping. But we're reborn in the present each day as new people. Language of love, stripped down of all the fuckery. Almost 20 years later, still ain't had enough of me. I'm writing lyrics on a plane, what am I doing with my life? Only things I'm certain of is my children and my wife. Telling my kids, you know, the daddy's gotta go to work. Doing shows across the globe, hiding how my heart hurts. What the fuck is wrong with me? This is a thing I still do. One of the last limbs of a monstrous crew. Do what we do. The truth is the truth. I am who I am on the job or in the vocal booth. You and you, my partner and my lover through and through. And the truth is I wouldn't be a thing at all without you. I hope you see it in my eyes, but I put it in the words so I know you know how I feel. You make it all worth it. Hope you see it in my eyes, but I put it in the words so I know you know how I feel. You make it all worth it. So I know you know how I feel. You make it all worth it. I hope you see it in my eyes, but I put it in the words so I know you know how I feel. You make it all worth
it. The word was good. Thank you, Michael. Be sure to check out his new EP. And when that fool does shows, go see him because he's a great performer and a great person. Okay, we're going to keep it moving. We have the MC Lars Patreon Larson of the week. And this week, guess who called in? Brian from Cuckoo Kangaroo. He told a story about the time I spent Halloween night at his house after we played a show in Minnesota and all the candy we handed out. So Brian, I know you have a million MC Lars shirts. You get a new one. Here's Brian's message.
Hey, this is Brian from the band Cuckoo Kangaroo calling into the top secret hotline for MC Lars. I would call in as a favor because I like Lars, but I just love the fact that I could get a free t-shirt. I mean, I'm just so excited to clothe my body in his logos. That's all I want to do with my life. All right, so I'm talking about MC Lars. We've toured with him many times. We're in a band called Cuckoo Kangaroo. MC Lars is just MC Lars, and it's a good combination. And he's a joyful person. He's happy. If you've ever met him in person, it's like, whoa, this dude just drank 9 coffees of joyful espresso. So he stayed at my house at the end of one of the tour, and it was Halloween on that evening. So we come in, we're going to hand out candy. And it was so crazy. I had moved into a new neighborhood. We didn't know how many kids to expect. It ended up that we had like 75 to like 100 kids come that night for candy. And every single kid that came up to the door, as Lars was tasked with handing out the candy, Lars would have that joyful, giddy craziness. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're a transformer. Oh my gosh, you look so great. You're a giant ninja. And it was a joyful experience to watch over the course of 3 hours. We had to go get more candy, and it was worth every penny because Lars was giving out the heat. It was nice. The kids loved it. It was fun to see him keep up. There was a lot of stamina. So, Lars, love you. That's a good story. It's not about a song because, I don't know. Should I listen to your music? All right, peace. Bye.
Thanks, Brian. When I was in LA for Player Omega, I got to interview some friends, and I interviewed Brian from I Fight Dragons and Jordan Katz, a friend of mine who produced some of the Zombie Dinosaur LP, and he produced De La Soul's last record, and he's done a lot of great stuff. A great horn player, a great musician. He does music for Drop the Mic, that battle rap show, and he's a great guy. So we talked about his interesting career, and we talked about just what the music industry is like as a working musician in Los Angeles. So that's next week. Oh, and I've got my Iron Man 1 and 2 songs dropping this month, of course. Oh, and check it out. I'm doing some video game reviews on my YouTube channel. So if you're not subscribed, please do. And this week I'm reviewing Divinity Original Sin 2. And I wanted to say I did a song with the Sons of Pitches. It's an a cappella cover of Butterfly by Crazy Town. And hey, I thought that might be a cool way to end the episode. So check it out. This is my cover of Crazy Town with the Sons of Pitches celebrating 20 years of a classic nu metal jam. All right, thanks everyone. Take care. It's MC Lars and the Sons of Pitches celebrating 20 years of Butterfly. 20 years? By Crazy Town. Already? Oh, nu metal a cappella. Nerdcore remix. YouTube. That's what's up. Come my lady, come my lady, you're my butterfly, sugar, baby. Come my lady, come my lady, you're my butterfly, sugar, baby. Such a sexy, pretty little thing. You step up here, she got me sprung with your tongue ring. And I ain't gonna lie, cause your loving gets me high. So to keep you by my side, there's nothing that I won't try. Butterflies in her eyes and looks to kill. Time is passing, I'm asking, could this be real? Cause I can't sleep, I can't hold still. The only thing I really know is she got sex appeal. I can feel too much is never enough. You're always there to lift me up when these times get rough. I was lost, now I found. Ever since you've been around, you're the woman that I want, so I'm putting it down. Come my lady, come my lady, you're my butterfly, sugar, baby. Come my lady, you're my pretty baby. I'll make your legs shake, you make me go crazy. Come my lady, come my lady, you're my butterfly, sugar, baby. Come my lady, you're my pretty baby. I'll make your legs shake, you make me go crazy. I don't deserve you unless it's some kind of hidden message to show me life is precious, then I guess it's true. But to tell the truth, I really never knew till I met you. See, I was lost and confused, twisted and used up. Knew a better life existed, but thought that I missed it. My lifestyle's wild, I was living like a wild child, trapped on a short leave, paroled the police files. So yo, what's happening now? I see the sun breaking down into dark clouds, and a vision of you standing out in the crowd, so come my lady, come my lady, you're my butterfly, sugar, baby. Come my lady, you're my pretty baby. I'll make your legs shake, you make me go crazy. Come my lady, come my lady, you're my butterfly, sugar, baby. Come my lady, you're my pretty baby. I'll make your legs shake, you make me go crazy. Hey sugar mama, come and dance with me. The smartest thing you ever did was take a chance with me. Whatever tickles your fancy, girl, me and you's like Sid and Nancy. So sexy, almost evil. Talk about butterflies in my head. I used to think that happy endings were only in the books I read, but you made me feel alive when I was almost dead. You feel that empty space with the love I used to chase, and as far as I can see, you don't get better than this. So butterfly, here is a song, and it's sealed with a kiss and a thank you, miss. Come and dance with me. Come and dance with me. Come and dance with me. So come and dance with me, Come my lady, come my lady, you're my butterfly, sugar, baby. Come my lady, you're my pretty baby. I'll make your legs shake, you make me go crazy. Come my lady, come my lady, you're my butterfly, sugar, baby. Come my lady, you're my pretty baby. I'll make your legs shake, you make me go crazy. Come my lady, come my lady, you're my butterfly, sugar, baby. Come my lady, you're my pretty baby. I'll make your legs shake, you make me go crazy. Come my lady, come my lady, you're my butterfly, sugar, baby. Come my lady, you're my pretty baby. I'll make your legs shake, you make me go crazy. Come and dance with me, yeah. Come and dance with me. Come and dance with me, yeah. Come and dance with me, Come and dance with me, yeah. Come and dance with me. Come and dance with me, yeah. Come and dance with me. The Sons of Pitches and MC Lars, doing those referential songs that are joyful and surprising. Thanks for listening.